Good morning students. Welcome to Department of Anatomy at SRTR Medical College, Ambajogai. Today's topic for lecture is midbrain. So this midbrain, or it is also called as mesencephalon, is the uppermost part of brainstem, and it forms the highway for outgoing impulses from forebrain and incoming impulses from hindbrain and spinal cord. It is about 2 centimeter in length. Third and fourth cranial nerves, they are attached to midbrain, so it consists of nuclei for these nerves. It diverges from the upper surface of pons as two peduncular bodies. So this midbrain, it is present in the form of two peduncular bodies. They are also called as cerebral peduncles, and these peduncular bodies pass forwards and upwards through the gap in tentorium cerebelli, that is the tentorial notch, and then it establishes link between forebrain, that is the structures derived from the forebrain, that is thalamus, subthalamus and the cerebral cortex above, and pons and cerebellum below. Cavity of midbrain is called as cerebral aqueduct, and the cerebral aqueduct, it connects third ventricle above with the fourth ventricle below. Midbrain, it also consists of nuclei which coordinates the movements of head, eyeball and trunk, and these nuclei, these are the superior colliculi, and these superior colliculi, they act as visual reflex center, and these superior colliculi, they also coordinates the movements of the eyeball in response to visual stimuli. Second nucleus, that is the inferior colliculus, and this inferior colliculus, it acts as the auditory reflex center, and it coordinates the movements of head and trunk in response to auditory stimuli. Objectives for today's lecture, these are to study external features of midbrain, then internal structure of midbrain, and this internal structure of midbrain, it is studied at two levels, that is at the lower level, that is at the level of inferior colliculus, and at the upper level, that is at the level of superior colliculus. Then blood supply of midbrain, and last, that is the clinical anatomy of midbrain. So first we will see about the external features of midbrain. So this midbrain, it is having three surfaces: ventral surface, dorsal surface and lateral surface. So first we will see about ventral surface. In this photograph, you see here, that is the pons, and from this upper part or upper border of this pons, these two peduncles, they ascend upward and forward towards the cerebral hemispheres, and these two peduncles, they form the midbrain, and these two peduncles, they are separated from each other anteriorly by this median sulcus. This anterior surface of midbrain, it possesses crus cerebri. So these crus cerebri, they are rope-like thick bundle of white matter which is present on this anterior or ventral aspect of midbrain. This crus cerebri, they ascend upward and forward from this upper border of pons, and while they are diverging, they encloses the space, and that space is called as interpeduncular fossa, and as this space it is present between these peduncles, so it is called as interpeduncular fossa. So this interpeduncular fossa, it is present on the base of brain, which is bounded by anteriorly by this optic chiasma, posteriorly by this upper border of pons. On each side, anterolaterally, it is bounded by optic tract, and posterolaterally, it is bounded by this crus cerebri of midbrain. And contents of this fossa, that is from posterior to anterior. Posteriorly, there is the posterior perforated substance, and this posterior perforated substance, it is the small grey matter which is pierced by perforating branches of posterior cerebral artery. So it is called as posterior perforated substance. There is one another anterior perforated substance which is present anteriorly in between medial and lateral olfactory stria. At the upper part of this photograph, you can see this near on this arrow, there is the olfactory tract, and it divides into medial and lateral olfactory stria. So this olfactory tract divides into medial and olfactory stria, and in between these two there is the another substance that is called as anterior perforated substance. So this posterior perforated substance, it is present posteriorly in this interpedicular fossa. Then anterior to this substance there is mammillary body, and anterior to this mammillary body there is that stalk of infundibulum of anterior pituitary. So this is about the interpeduncular fossa, and this is the ventral surface of midbrain. So this ventral surface of midbrain, it is made up of that crus cerebrae. Now this crus cerebrae anteriorly they are related with, so in this photograph you can see that optic chiasma, then this is the infundibulum, then mammillary body, and here posterior to mammillary body there is a posterior perforated substance. Here you can see that is the branches of this posterior cerebral artery, they pierces this substance. So this crus cerebrae, it is related anteriorly from above downward by this optic tract, then basal vein, then this posterior cerebral artery and superior cerebellar artery. So these are the relations on the anterior aspect of crus cerebrae, which is related with the optic tract, posterior cerebral artery and superior cerebellar artery from above downwards. In between these two arteries, that is posterior cerebral artery and this superior cerebellar artery, these two cranial nerves, that is the third cranial nerve and the fourth cranial nerve, they emerge on medial and lateral aspect of this crus cerebrae respectively. So this is about the anterior surface of or ventral surface of midbrain. Then we will see about dorsal surface of midbrain. So this dorsal surface of midbrain, it presents four eminences, and these eminences or elevations, they are arranged in pairs, that is the superior pair and inferior pair. The elevations or eminences in the superior pair, they form the right and left superior colliculi, and these elevations on the inferior pair, in the inferior pair, these are the inferior colliculi, and these four together, that is the two superior colliculi and the two inferior colliculi, they are called as corpora quadrigemina or quadrigeminal body. These four colliculi, they are separated from each other by cruciform sulcus, which is having vertical limb and the horizontal limb. This vertical limb of cruciform sulcus at the upper end, it terminates in a triangular depression or triangular fossa, and that fossa that lodges the pineal gland on the superior aspect of this superior colliculi. Superiorly or superior to this pineal gland, there lies the splenium of corpus callosum. Then lower end of this vertical limb, it is continuous with the frenulum villi, and this frenulum villi, it is the ridge on the superior medullary velum, and this superior medullary velum, it is a thin transparent lamina of white matter which stretches between these two superior cerebellar peduncles, and this forms, that is the superior medullary velum, it forms the upper roof of upper part of floor of fourth. It forms the roof of upper part of fourth ventricle. Then on each side of this frenulum villi, that's fourth cranial nerve, that is the fourth cranial nerve, trochlear nerve, it emerges on each side of this frenulum villi. This is the only cranial nerve which emerges on the dorsal aspect of brainstem. It is the only cranial nerve which undergoes crossing, and it is the only cranial nerve which is having the longest intracranial course. So this posterior surface of midbrain, it is having these four colliculi, that is the two superior colliculi and the two inferior colliculi. Now lateral surface of midbrain, this lateral surface of midbrain, it presents two thick bands of white matter, that is superior band and the inferior band. This superior band of white matter, it is called as superior brachium or brachium of the superior colliculus, and this brachium of the superior colliculus or upper thick band, it connects superior colliculus with the lateral geniculate body, and this inferior band, it connects inferior colliculus with the medial geniculate body, and that is called as brachium of inferior colliculus or the inferior brachium. So on the lateral surface of midbrain there are superior brachium and the inferior brachium. So this is about the dorsal and lateral surfaces of midbrain. This figure, it shows posterior aspect of brainstem. All that is the midbrain, pons and medulla. So posterior aspect of this midbrain, there are 4 colliculi, that is the 2 superior colliculi, 2 inferior colliculi. Then this each colliculus, the superior colliculus, it is connected with this lateral geniculate body, which is present at the posterior aspect of this thylamus, and it is connected with it by this brachium of superior colliculus. This inferior colliculus, it is connected with this medial geniculate body by this inferior brachium. Caudal to this inferior colliculus, on each side of this frenulum villi, this trochlear nerve, it emerges from the dorsal aspect of this midbrain. Then this lower part, it shows the posterior aspect of that pons, which forms the upper part of floor of 4th ventricle. This lower part, which is formed by the upper part of medulla, that is posterior surface, and these two, they are separated by this stria medullaris. Then we will see about internal structure of midbrain. This internal structure of midbrain, it is studied at 2 levels, that is at the level of inferior colliculus and at the level of superior colliculus. So first transverse section, it is taken at this lower part, that is at the level of inferior colliculus, and second section in the upper part, that is at the level of superior colliculus. And in this diagram, you see that is the lower part. In the lower part, there is the transverse section at the level of inferior colliculus, and this upper transverse section, it is at the level of superior colliculus. And you see here, that is the one prominent structure which is present at this level of superior colliculus, that is the red nucleus. So first we will see about transverse section at the level of inferior colliculus. So when we take transverse section of this midbrain, main prominent feature in this, there is in the dorsal aspect, there is presence of cerebral aqueduct, and the cerebral aqueduct, it is nothing but the cavity of midbrain. The transverse line drawn through this cerebral aqueduct, it divides this midbrain into posterior part and anterior part. The part which lies dorsal to this transverse line, which passes through the cerebral aqueduct, it is called as tectum, and this tectum, it is occupied by the superior and inferior colliculi. And the part of the midbrain which lies ventral or anterior to this transverse line, that is called as cerebral peduncle. This cerebral peduncle, it is divided into anterior and posterior part by this pigmented sheet of grey matter, and this pigmented sheet of grey matter, that is called as substantia nigra, and this substantia nigra divides this cerebral peduncle into anterior part, that is called as crus cerebri, and the posterior part, that is called as tegmentum. This crus cerebri and substantia nigra, these two are having same structure throughout the midbrain, but this tegmentum and this tectum, they are having different structure at these 2 levels. So first we will see about transverse section at the level of inferior colliculus. So first we will see about this crus cerebri. So this crus cerebri, they are present anterior to this substantia nigra. In cross section, they are semilunar in shape, and cut surface of this crus cerebri, it looks like that is the cut surface of a strand of rope. And this crus cerebri, below it continues with the basilar part of pons, and it consists of various descending fibers from the internal capsule. So this middle 3/5 of this crus cerebri, it consists of corticospinal and corticobulbar fibers. These corticospinal fibers, they descend from the posterior limb of internal capsule to this middle 3/5 of crus cerebri, and then it descends downward in the basilar part of the pons. These corticobulbar or corticonuclear fibers, they descend from the genu of internal capsule into this middle 3/5 part of crus cerebri, and then they descend downward in the basilar part of pons. Then this medial 1/5 and the lateral 1/5 part, it is occupied by the corticopontine fibers. And now you know these corticopontine fibers, they arise in the cerebral cortex and they terminate in the pontine nuclei which are present in the basilar part of pons. This medial 1/5, it is occupied mainly by the frontopontine fibers, and this lateral 1/5, it is occupied by the temporopontine and also fibers from the parietal cortex, that is the parietopontine and the occipitopontine fibers. This is about the crus cerebri. Then dorsal to this crus cerebri, there is the substantia nigra, and this substantia nigra, it is the sheet of pigmented grey matter. It is arched in shape with concavity. It is directed dorsally towards this tegmentum. This substantia nigra, it is divided into two parts. That is dorsal part, it is called as pars compacta, and this ventral part is called as pars reticularis, and it is dark color because of presence of melanin pigment. And this substantia nigra, it is mainly connected with the corpus striatum, and this dopamine, it is produced in this substantia nigra, that is carried by these axons of these neurons of this substantia nigra to the corpus striatum, and then this corpus striatum, it is connected with the thalamus, and this connection between this substantia nigra, corpus striatum and the thalamus, it is necessary for the performance of skillful, precise, voluntary movements. So this is about the substantia nigra. Then dorsal to substantia nigra, there is the tegmentum, and this tegmentum, it is occupied by various ascending tracts. So first prominent feature in this tegmentum, that is just dorsal to this substantia nigra, that is there is the decussation of the superior cerebellar peduncle fibers. So fibers of the superior cerebellar peduncle, they mainly arise in the cerebellum, that is the nuclei of the cerebellum, that is dentate nucleus and nucleus emboliformis and nucleus globosus. And these fibers from the cerebellum, they ascend upward and medially, and then they cross in the lower part of medulla in the median plane, and after crossing these fibers, they ascend upward and they terminate in the red nucleus and the thalamus, and some descends and they terminate in the reticular formation and the inferior olivary nucleus in medulla. So this main feature is that is decussation of this superior cerebellar peduncle, which lies dorsal to this substantia nigra. Then in the median plane, dorsal to this decussation, there lies the rubrospinal tract, then tectospinal tract, and the medial longitudinal bundle or fasciculus. And now you know about all these structures. Then lateral part of this tegmentum, it is occupied by various ascending tracts, and they are arranged from medial to lateral side, that is the medial lemniscus, trigeminal lemniscus, spinal lemniscus, and lateral lemniscus. And now you know all about this lemnisci. This lateral lemniscus, here some fibers of lateral lemniscus, they terminate in this inferior colliculus, and maximum fibers of this lateral lemniscus, they pass through this inferior brachium and they terminate in this medial geniculate body, and from this medial geniculate body, they terminate in the auditory cortex for the perception of that audition or perception of hearing. So this lateral lemniscus, it ends here. It is not present at the upper level. Its fibers, some fibers end in this inferior colliculus, and maximum fibers, they end in the medial geniculate body. Then dorsal to this medial lemniscus, there is one tract that is called as central tegmental tract, and you know about this central tegmental tract. Then dorsal to this medial longitudinal fasciculus, there is cerebral aqueduct which is surrounded by this gray matter, and this gray matter surrounding this central cerebral aqueduct is called as periaqueductal gray or the central gray matter. And the main features or main structures present in this central gray matter on its ventral aspect, that is the nucleus of trochlear nerve, that is the fourth cranial nerve nucleus. It is present in the ventral part of this central gray matter. So this nucleus, it represents the somatic efferent column. Fibers for this nucleus, they are derived from the, that is the corticonuclear fibers from the motor cortex. Efferents arising from this trochlear nerve nucleus, they pass dorsally around this cerebral aqueduct, then they cross with the similar fibers from the opposite side in the superior medullary velum, and then it emerge, this nerve it emerge on the dorsal aspect of brain on each side of the trilunar villi. Then from its dorsal aspect, this nerve it runs laterally and ventrally, and then it come on the lateral aspect of crus cerebri. Then on the lateral aspect of this central gray matter, there lies the mesencephalic nucleus of fifth nerve, that is the trigeminal nerve, and this is the third sensory nucleus of this trigeminal nerve. Characteristic feature of this nucleus, it is made up of, that is the pseudo-unipolar sensory neurons. Peripheral processes of these neurons, they enter into the trigeminal nerve and they carry the proprioceptive sensations from the periphery, that is from the muscles of the mastication, muscles of face and extraocular muscles, and these peripheral processes, they carry this sensation in this mesencephalic nucleus of the fifth nerve. So this is about the tegmental part. Then tectum, which lies posteriorly, and this tectum, it mainly consists of, that is the inferior colliculi, that is the right and left inferior colliculi. So this inferior colliculus, it is situated at the lower level of midbrain in the tectum, and it acts as a relay nucleus in the auditory pathway. It also acts as a auditory reflex center, and it also plays a important role in the localization of sound source. So this inferior colliculus, it is divided into central nucleus, pericentral nucleus and the external nucleus, and main afferents to this inferior colliculus, they are from this lateral lemniscus. So this inferior colliculus, this flow chart, it shows the connections of inferior colliculus. Inferior colliculus, it mainly receives afferents from this lateral lemniscus, and then fibers arising from this inferior colliculus, they are carried to thalamus, that is the medial geniculate body, through the brachium of inferior colliculus. Then some efferents, they goes to the superior colliculus. This diagram, it shows the connections of the inferior colliculus. So this inferior colliculus, it receives fibers from this lateral lemniscus, and efferents arising from this inferior colliculus, they go to this medial geniculate body, and from this medial geniculate body to the auditory cortex. Some efferents, they go to this superior colliculus of the same side, and from this superior colliculus, these fibers, they cross to the opposite side in the dorsal tegmental decussation, and then they are carried as the tectospinal tract and in the tectobulbar tract, and which these fibers, they play important role in the turning of head and neck toward the side of auditory stimulus. Then some efferents, they go to this inferior colliculus of opposite side. So this is about the connections of inferior colliculus, and this is about the transverse section at the level of inferior colliculus. So this section, it represents this crus cerebri anteriorly, then substantia nigra, and dorsal to substantia nigra there is tegmentum, and which is occupied by the various ascending tracts, that is the medial lemniscus, trigeminal lemniscus, spinal lemniscus, and lateral lemniscus from medial to lateral side. In the median plane, most anteriorly in the tegmentum there is decussation of this superior cerebellar peduncle. Then dorsal to it there are rubrospinal tract, tectospinal tract, and medial longitudinal fasciculus. Then around this cerebral aqueduct there is the periaqueductal grey matter, and it consists of, that is the trochlear nerve nucleus and the mesencephalic nucleus. Then next section we will see about at the level of superior colliculus. This section, it shows again anteriorly crus cerebri and then substantia nigra, and the structure of this crus cerebri and the substantia nigra, it is same as that of the lower level. So these two structures, they are having same structure throughout the midbrain. Then we will see about this tegmentum in the median plane along this midline. So most ventral structure, that is the ventral tegmental decussation, and now you know this ventral tegmental decussation, this is formed by, that is the decussating fibers of this rubrospinal tract, and this rubrospinal tract, it starts in the red nucleus and ends in the spinal cord. So this ventral tegmental decussation, which is formed by these fibers arising from this red nucleus, and this fiber they decussate and descend downward as the rubrospinal tract. Then dorsal to this ventral tegmental decussation there is the red nucleus. We will see later on this. Now dorsal to this red nucleus there is the dorsal tegmental decussation. Now you know this dorsal tegmental decussation, it is formed by the tectospinal tract, that is the fibers arising in the superior colliculus, they descend downward around this central grey matter, then they cross with the similar fibers from the opposite side ventral to this cerebral aqueduct, and they form the dorsal tegmental decussation, which is formed by this tectospinal fibers. Then dorsal to this dorsal tegmental decussation there is the medial longitudinal fasciculus. Then lateral part of this tegmentum, it is occupied by this medial lemniscus, trigeminal lemniscus, and spinal lemniscus. Here lateral lemniscus is not present because this lateral lemniscus, it ends at the level of inferior colliculus. Then dorsal to this lemnisci there is that central tegmental tract, and there is one tract shown here that is called as the dorsal trigeminothalamic tract, and these fibers of dorsal trigeminothalamic tract, they arise from the principal sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve. Then this cerebral, so before that we will see about this red nucleus. So this red nucleus which is present in the tegmentum just dorsal to this ventral tegmental decussation. So this red nucleus, it is situated in the upper part of midbrain at the level of superior colliculus, just dorsal to the medial part of substantia nigra. It is ovoid in shape, or it is oval in shape. It is about 0.5 centimeter or 5 millimeter in size, and it is called as red nucleus because in fresh cut section it appears pinkish due to the presence of iron, that is iron containing pigment, it is present in the neurons of this red nucleus. So it is called as red nucleus, which is pinkish in color. Main connections of this red nucleus, that is afferents and efferents. So in this diagram you can see that is from above downwards there is the cerebral cortex, that is motor cortex, then thalamus is shown here, then on lateral aspect of the thalamus there is the lentiform nucleus, and Then caudal to this thalamus there is the red nucleus. Then this central part, it presents the, that is the brain stem. This red nucleus part, that is the midbrain. Then this is the pons, and lower part where this inferior olivary nucleus is present, that is the medulla. Then on each side of this midbrain there is cerebellum, and in this cerebellum that three nuclei are shown here, that is the dentate nucleus, nucleus emboliformis and nucleus globosus. So this red nucleus, it afferents of red nucleus, so it mainly receives afferents from the cerebellum. Mainly it receives afferent from the cerebellum. So these fibers which arise in this dentate nucleus, nucleus emboliformis and nucleus globosus, they enter into the superior cerebellar peduncle. Then they undergo decussation in the decussation of superior cerebellar peduncle in the lower part of midbrain, and after decussation these fibers, maximum fibers, they ascend upward and they end in this red nucleus and in the thalamus. So this main afferent of this red nucleus, it is from the nuclei of this cerebellum. So that is the cerebello-rubral fibers. Then second afferents from this motor cortex, that is the cortico-rubral fibers. And third main afferent of this red nucleus, that is from the globus pallidus. And other afferents to this red nucleus, that is from the thalamus, subthalamus, substantia nigra. So this is about the afferents. Then efferents of red nucleus. So in this diagram you can see this red nuclei of both sides. Then it receives afferents from the cerebrum, that is the cerebral cortex, then from this globus pallidus, then from substantia nigra, and from the opposite side cerebellum. Then main efferents of this red nucleus, they cross in the midline in the ventral tegmental decussation, and they descend downward as the rubrospinal tract, then rubronuclear tract, which end in relation with this third, fourth, fifth, sixth and the seventh cranial nerves, and these rubroreticular fibers. And these rubroreticular fibers, they mainly go through the central tegmental tract and they terminate in the inferior olivary nucleus in medulla and the reticular formation in pons and medulla. So these are the main efferents of red nucleus. They mainly goes to the as a rubrospinal tract, rubronuclear and the rubroreticular. This flow chart, it shows connections, that is afferents and efferents of the red nucleus. So it mainly receives connection afferents from the cerebellum, that is the cerebello-rubral, from the contralateral side, then from the cerebral cortex, that is the motor area 4 and 6, from the same side, then from the globus pallidus, that is the pallido-rubral fibers from the same side, then from the thalamus, subthalamus, substantia nigra, and from the tectum. So these are the afferents. Efferents of this red nucleus, they mainly goes to the spinal cord, that is the anterior horn cells of the spinal cord, to the rubrospinal fibers, then rubronuclear, that is the various cranial nerve nuclei, then to the substantia nigra, then some fibers they goes to the thalamus, that is the rubrothalamic fibers, then some fibers they goes to the cerebellum, that is the rubrocerebellar, and other efferents they are to the olivary nucleus and to the reticular formation. So this is about connections of red nucleus. So this red nucleus, which is situated in the midbrain at the level of superior colliculus in anterior part of tegmentum. Then around this cerebral aqueduct there is central gray matter, and ventrally this central gray matter, it is occupied by oculomotor nerve nucleus, and this oculomotor nerve nucleus, which is situated in the ventral part of this central gray matter, it is present, these two nuclei, they are present in the form of V, and this nucleus, it represents the two functional components, that is somatic efferent functional component, and through this somatic efferent functional component, this oculomotor nerve, it supplies extraocular muscles except lateral rectus and superior oblique. And the second functional component is the general visceral efferent component, and this general visceral component, it is the parasympathetic component, and nucleus, it is the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, which is present with this oculomotor nerve nucleus. And through this Edinger-Westphal nucleus, the fibers, they descend through this oculomotor nerve and then they terminate in the ciliary ganglia. So these are the preganglionic fibers, and the postganglionic fibers arising from this ciliary ganglia, they pass through short ciliary nerves and supplies ciliaris muscle and the sphincter pupillae muscle. This oculomotor nerve nucleus, it consists of many subnuclei, and this each subnucleus. So in this diagram, you can see this oculomotor nerve nuclear complex. There are many subnuclei. They are named this on the dorsal aspect. There is the visceral nucleus, and that is the Edinger-Westphal nucleus. Then other nuclei in this nerve nucleus, oculomotor nerve nucleus, this subnuclei, that is this dorsal nucleus, and this dorsal nucleus, you can see here fibers arising from this dorsal nucleus, they mainly supply the inferior rectus muscle. Then this is the ventral nucleus, and fibers arising from this ventral nucleus, they supply the medial rectus muscle. Then caudally, there is this caudal central nucleus, and this caudal central nucleus, it supplies the levator palpebrae superioris muscle. Then in between this dorsal and ventral nuclei, there is one is the intermediate nucleus, and this intermediate nucleus, it supplies that is the inferior oblique muscle. And this median raphe nucleus here in white color, in between this dorsal nucleus and intermediate nucleus, and this median raphe nucleus, it mainly supplies this superior rectus muscle. So this oculomotor nerve nuclear complex, it is made up of many subnuclei, and each subnuclei, it supplies individual muscles of extraocular muscle except superior oblique and the lateral rectus muscle. And this is about the oculomotor nerve nucleus. Then in the lateral part of this central gray matter, there is the mesencephalic nucleus of trigeminal nerve, because this nucleus present throughout the midbrain. Then dorsal aspect of this midbrain at this level, that is tectum, and this tectum, it consists of, that is the superior colliculi, that is the right and left superior colliculi, and one another structure present here on superolateral aspect of this superior colliculus, and that is called as pretector nucleus. So first we will see about this superior colliculus. So situation of the superior colliculus. The superior colliculus, it is situated at the upper level of midbrain in the tectum. So this in the lower or in lower animals or in submammalian vertebrates, this superior colliculus, it is homologous with the optic lobe of midbrain. So phylogenetically in mammals or in vertebrates, this superior colliculus, it acts as a visual reflex center, but in lower animals, it forms the optic lobe of midbrain, and due to phylogeny, this superior colliculus, it acts as a visual center, but it shows the layers. So it is made up of 7 layers, as in lower animals, it forms the optic lobe, and this superior colliculus, it shows the 7 layers, that is the alternate white and grey matter layers. So it is made up of that 7 layers. Then connections of superior colliculus. So this superior colliculus, in this upper diagram, that is the superior colliculus, it mainly receives afferents from the retina, that is through the optic tract, through the superior brachium, that is the retina. Then also it receives afferents from this cerebral cortex, that is the visual cortex. Then also it receives afferents from the opposite side, superior colliculus, and afferents from the same side, inferior colliculus. Efferents of this superior colliculus, so main efferents of this superior colliculus, they form the tectospinal tract and the tectobulbar or tectonuclear tract. Some efferents, they goes to the opposite superior colliculus and the same side, inferior colliculus, and some efferents, they go to the lateral geniculate body. This flow chart, it shows afferents and efferents of the superior colliculus. So it mainly receives afferents from the retina, then from the visual cortex, that is from the frontal and occipital visual cortex, and also it receives afferents, main afferent, that is the spinal cord, that is the either spinotectal tract. Efferents, main efferents, they form the tectospinal tract and tectobulbar or tectonuclear tract, and other efferents, they go to the superior colliculus, lateral geniculate body, and the inferior colliculus of the same side. So this is about the connections of superior colliculus, and this is about transverse section at the level of superior colliculus. So this section, it shows main feature, that is the red nucleus in the tegmentum, then ventral to this central cerebral aqueduct, there is the oculomotor nerve nuclear complex, and in the tectum there is the superior colliculus. Then one structure it is present, that is the pretectal nucleus, which lies on the superolateral aspect of this superior colliculus, and this pretectal nucleus, it plays important role in the pupillary light reflex. So we will see about this connections of pretectal nucleus. Now this pretectal nucleus, which is present on the superolateral aspect of that superior colliculus. So main connections, it receives afferents from the retina, and it also receives some fibers from the visual cortex, then from the superior colliculus of opposite side. So main afferents, they are from the retina through the optic tract, and efferents of this pretectal nucleus, they go to the Edinger-Westphal nucleus of both sides, that is Edinger-Westphal nucleus of the both sides, and fibers arising from this Edinger-Westphal nucleus, these are the preganglionic fibers, they enter in the oculomotor nerve, then they relay in the ciliary ganglia, and postganglionic fibers, they supply sphincter pupillae and ciliaris muscle. So this nucleus, it plays important role in the pupillary light reflex. So what is pupillary light reflex? That is when light is shown in eye, then what happens, that sensations, they are carried through this optic nerve, then optic tract, and some fibers from this optic tract, they relay in this pretectal nucleus. Then this pretectal nucleus, it gives fibers to both sides Edinger-Westphal nucleus, and then from this Edinger-Westphal nucleus through this oculomotor nerve to the ciliary ganglia, and from the ciliary ganglia to the sphincter pupillae and the ciliaris muscle, and there is the constriction of pupilla, and this is the pupillary light reflex. And this pretectal nucleus, it is responsible for both direct pupillary light reflex and the consensual pupillary light reflex. And when there is damage to this pretectal area, that pupillary light reflex is lost, but there is presence of accommodation reflex for the near vision, and that condition is called as Argyll-Robertson pupil. And this Argyll-Robertson pupil, in which the pupillary light reflex is lost and the accommodation reflex is present, and in this case there is the lesion or there is the damage in this pretector nucleus. So this is about the transverse section of midbrain at the level of superior colliculus. Now we will see about blood supply of midbrain. So midbrain, it is mainly supplied by branches of basilar artery. So in this diagram you can see this basilar artery and branches of basilar artery, that is the superior cerebellar artery and the posterior cerebral artery. These branches arising from this superior cerebellar artery and posterior cerebral artery, these are the two types. That is the paramedian branches, which supplies the region, that is the paramedian region in the median plane, and the circumferential branches, they supply the lateral and the dorsal aspect of the midbrain. One branch from this posterior cerebral artery, that is the circumferential artery, it is the long, and that supplies the tectum, that is the superior and inferior colliculi, and that artery or that branch is called as quadrigeminal artery. Then we will see about clinical anatomy. So lesions of midbrain, they are mainly due to trauma, pressure of tumors and the vascular lesions, and these vascular lesions means that is the due to the occlusion of the arteries supplying this midbrain, that leads to syndromes, and that is the Weber's syndrome, Bendit syndrome and Parinaud's syndrome. And other clinical aspect, that is the Argyll-Robertson pupil, we have seen about that, that is due to the damage or lesion in the pretector nucleus. So we will see about this syndromes. So in this diagram you can see that is the areas or damage to the part of midbrain in each syndrome. So this area involved in Weber's syndrome, see it is present on the anterior aspect, which mainly involves the crus cerebri and this oculomotor nerve. So in this Weber's syndrome, the structures damaged, these are the corticospinal fibers, that is the which are present in this crus cerebri. So there is the hemiplegia on the contralateral side, and due to this damage to these fibers of oculomotor nerve, there is the paralysis of the extraocular muscles supplied by this oculomotor nerve, and that leads to the drooping of upper eyelid due to the paralysis of levator palpebrae superioris muscle. Then there is loss of accommodation reflex due to the paralysis of medial rectus, and there is dilatation of pupil because these parasympathetic fibers which arise from the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, they are damaged, as there is the damage to this oculomotor nerve. So there is paralysis of that sphincter pupillae muscle, so there is dilatation of the pupil. So this is the Weber's syndrome. The next syndrome due to this vascular lesion, that is the called as Bendit syndrome, and this lesion or damage to structures, it is present in the posteriorly in the tegmentum, and the main structures involved in this syndrome, these are the red nucleus, then fibers of this oculomotor nerve, then this medial lemniscus, and sometimes that spinal lemniscus is also involved, and there is also damage to the superior cerebellar fibers in the decussation. So signs and symptoms produced in this Bendit syndrome due to damage to this oculomotor nerve, signs and symptoms same as that of the Weber syndrome. Then damage to this red nucleus and superior cerebellar peduncle fibers, there are various involuntary movements. Then due to damage to this medial lemniscus, that leads to the loss of proprioceptive sensations, loss of vibration sensation from the contralateral side, and when this spinal lemniscus it is involved, there is loss of pain, touch, temperature on the contralateral side. So this is about the Bendit syndrome. And the last lesion, that is the Parinaud's syndrome, and it is due to the damage in the region of the superior colliculus in the tectum at the level of superior colliculus, and in this syndrome, that is the Parinode syndrome, there is the paralysis of upward gaze, and that is also called as sunset sign. And this lesion of the superior colliculus lesion in this Parinodes, that is mainly due to the tumors of that pineal gland that compress or that may cause pressure in the under this tectum. So this is about the applied aspect, and this is about the midbrain, about its external feature, internal structure, which is studied at two levels, that is at the level of inferior colliculus and second at the level of superior colliculus, its blood supply and its clinical anatomy. Thank you. Have a good day.